We would love everybody to enter and rejoice and come in. And please stand if you're able and would like to join us here.
Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Obi Duru, he, him, and it's a great day to be your worship associate. Before we get into the main part of our service, let's take a moment to acknowledge each other in this space, as well as our VUU friends and family that are joining us via YouTube. Let's do a quick wave at this time. Even though it looks like we're waving to our, there we go. Waving to ourselves for a second there. If you are new to VUU and Unitarian Universalism, please join us at our welcome circle. Now, normally we have our welcome circle to the right, but today we'll actually have our welcome circle in the flex room, and that's going to be facilitated by Doug Nentzel. Where are you, Doug? There's Doug right there. If you're interested in learning more, please join us in the welcome circle. Now, here in our liberal congregation, there's no obligation to do this, but if you are new and are up for receiving an extra warm welcome in this moment, please stand or wave so that we can see who you are and acknowledge you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for standing. And don't tell anybody, but I didn't stand for my very first VUU service. And look how far I've come. So it's okay if you didn't stand, but we hope to connect with you more at our welcome circle. And feel free to grab a snack or beverage before coming over. To help us stay connected, we invite you to take a moment to sign in using the visitor's QR code. I think we have a slide for that. The QR code is also available on the back of the VUU brochure. Standing announcements. So each week we do have trained pastoral care associates available for anyone needing support or a listening ear. This Sunday, pastoral care will be provided by Carl Anderson. Carl, you here? There's Carl. And then also will be provided by Claudette Wassil online. So they'll be responsible for pastoral care for the following week. And their contact email address is pastoralcare@vuu.org. And then Caring Neighbors. So Caring Neighbors works to foster a loving and caring community in which VUU members and friends nurture, support, and assist each other through joys and trials with things like meals, social gatherings, occasional rides. Their contact is caringneighbors@vuu.org. Now, today's service is an opportunity to reflect on stewardship. We often think of money when we hear that word, and the truth is, financial gifts are important. They keep our lights on, sustain our volunteers and staff, and overall just help our congregation do great work. But stewardship is also about the time we give, the effort we put in, the energy we share with one another. And we've heard it all before, but it doesn't make it less true. We're all better off when we're all better off. And the more we share of ourselves, our resources, time, talents, the stronger our community becomes, and the more we're able to support each other through challenging times. So as we move into this service together, let's think of stewardship as a way of living in community with those that we don't necessarily see every day. It's how we say yes to one another and how we help build a better world one community at a time. So in light of that, let's start our service by lighting our chalice. See what I did there? We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love which calls us to work for justice. Welcome, friends, newcomers, old-timers, seekers, skeptics, saints of habit, and rebels of the heart. Here we gather not because we think the same, but because we choose to journey together. Belonging is not something given, it's something we build with open hands and open hearts. It's made in the sharing of stories, the holding of silences, the courage to show up as we are. Here we practice a radical hospitality, not of perfection, but of presence. May we make this place a shelter for the soul, a workshop for justice, a sanctuary where love is not merely spoken, but lived deeply. Again, in trust, in hope, in the spirit of belonging.
Welcome. We hope that you will consider standing and joining us now for All That Is Our Life opening hymn. If you'd like to look in your hymnals, it's number 128, or you can just follow the slides.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use, to build the common good, and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn,
Well, you'll know what time it is because I've got my special hat for it. My faith formation hat, which is my extra hat that I'm wearing right now while we search for a new faith formation director. So I'm Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, she, her, she, they, and I am the settled minister here, and I'm joined by a very special guest today. This is Reverend Lydia Ferrante Roseberry. And Lydia was my internship minister 13 years ago when I served in Boulder County at the VUU Fellowship, Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. You see how we have these really long names? Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan of the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Woo! We use a lot of acronyms, that's why. So Lydia and I have stayed friends for a long time. She was here for my installation a couple years ago, and she's been back here this weekend to help us begin looking at stewardship. So I wanted you to know who she was. And after service, she's going to give a little update on the weekend. So stay after, grab a drink, and come listen to what she has to share with us after service. But if you're young or young at heart and you're ready for a story and you'd like to come forward and join me and my hat, I invite you now. So if you've got little ones with you and want to come with them, or they want to come on their own, or they've got a friend they want to bring, I see that the two who are about to outgrow me are coming down the aisle, or perhaps already have outgrown me, Riley and Julia. It's all right, you can come stand next to me and just let everybody see for a second. Look at this. How old do you think I was when I quit growing, y'all? This is it. Okay, you can have a seat now. So this is a Chinese folk tale. It's called The Lord of Cranes, and it lifts up our VUU value of generosity. It reminds us that we can build belonging by sharing what we have. So there are places in China where the mountains reach all the way up to the clouds, and high up on one of those mountains lived a wise old man. His name was Tian, which means heaven. And there among the clouds lived Tian's friends, the cranes. Those are big birds. Can you all kind of picture a really big bird with long legs? Tian fed them and cared for them, and the birds told Tian of the wonders they had seen on their flights down below. And he was devoted to these birds, and they would do anything for him. That is why Tian was called Lord of the Cranes. Now, one day, Tian decided to go down to the city. He wanted to see if people were remembering to be kind and generous. So the old man settled himself on the back of a crane and flew through the clouds. That sounds fun, right? Can you imagine riding on a crane? Okay. Maybe it's like being on one of those hang gliding things. In the city, Tian met a beggar. "Would you be willing to exchange your clothes with mine?" asked Tian. And the man was shocked. "Oh, no, sir. Why would you give up your splendid robes for my torn old rags?" "I have come to test people," Tian said. "No one must recognize me." So the gentleman understood that Tian was no ordinary man and gratefully agreed to the exchange. And then Tian gave him his blessing and went on his way. Day after day, Tian went begging through the streets of the beautiful city. Many wealthy people passed by, but no one seemed to notice him. Not a single person dropped a coin in his cup. And then one evening, Tian arrived tired and hungry at a small inn, and Wang, the owner, welcomed him and said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "Could you give me, please, a little bit to eat and drink?" "I have no money. I'm sorry, I can't pay." And Wang smiled cheerfully and waved away the apology. "Sit down, take a rest." And Wang brought the old man a warm bowl of soup, rice, tea, and a plate of sizzling meat. And Tian's heart was full as his belly when he left the inn that evening. On the following evening, Tian stood again at Wang's door. "Please, sir, can I have a sip of rice wine and a bit of food to eat?" My pleasure, and don't worry about the cost, answered Wang, and Tian ate and drank and smiled his thanks. And from then on, Tian came every day to Wang's inn, where he was always welcome. Many months went by in this way, and one day Tian said to Wang, I am deeply in your debt. One day, you have been so good to me. I must find a way to repay you. And Wang was quite surprised. But you do not need to repay me. What I have given to you, I have given freely. It makes me happy when I can help someone. Tian smiled. Nonetheless, I would like to repay you. Of course, I have no money, but I can give you something else. And Tian untied a gourd from his walking stick. It looked like a water flask, but Tian used it like the finest sable brush to paint a picture of 3 cranes on the wall of the inn. Wang was astonished. It is wonderful, heavenly. Just wait, it gets better. He started to sing and clap with his hands. Can you clap with me? And the cranes began to move. One by one, those painted cranes came off of the wall and started to fly around and flutter. And they danced to Tian's song. Wang's eyes and mouth were wide with astonishment. Let your guests be merry, Tian said. When they start singing and clapping, the cranes will dance. Tian turned to the door. Wait, just who are you, good sir? Wang called, but Tian just gave a friendly wave and disappeared. Soon everyone in the city was talking about the wondrous dancing cranes at Wang's inn. More and more people came every day to marvel at the beautiful birds. Before long, Wang was one of the richest men in the city, but he always kept a seat free and a bowl of soup ready for anyone in need. One day, Tian returned, and Wang hurried to greet him, sat him at the best table, and brought him a delicious meal. Please tell me who you are, he begged. Tian didn't answer. Instead, he lifted a flute to his lips and played a melody that was so tender and beautiful it brought tears to Wang's eyes. That was a melody from heaven, whispered Wang. I thank you for allowing me to hear it. You have made me a rich and happy man. How can I ever repay you? Teach others to be as kind and generous to the poor as you have been to me, said Tian. That is my only wish. And then he raised his flute to his lips and played the melody from heaven one last time. And the 3 cranes stepped off the wall and knelt before him. And Tian stroked them and said, I thank you for your help, my friends. We will now fly home. And he bowed to Wang. Farewell, good sir. And Tian flew on the back of one of the cranes up above the city and into the sky. A great flock of cranes accompanied them, and Wang stood watching the sky long after Tian and the cranes had disappeared. At last, he knew who the unusual visitor was. Deeply humbled, Wang returned to his inn, and for the rest of his life, Wang tried to fulfill the Lord of the Cranes' wish, telling all who would listen of the miraculous encounter with the beggar in disguise and urging them to share with those less fortunate. So what I love about this story is that it serves as a reminder that the voice of our shared UU values and faith calls us to build belonging by acting with compassion and generosity and sharing what we have. And how many of you saw the shower vehicle out here when you came in? I'm not sure if it's still out there. Yes. So once a week, 4 times a month, sometimes more, sometimes less, we have folks who sleep in this room. And they bring pads and they have backpacks, and we serve a meal. There was actually somebody who slept right up here next to my pulpit last night. Yeah. It's going to make me a little teary. Last night, we don't normally do Saturdays. We normally do a Monday or a Tuesday. But they had a place fall through that they couldn't stay in last night, and they asked if we would sub in, about a week ago, and I said, of course, because I knew they would be gone at 7:30, and y'all wouldn't be here till about 10:30-ish. Some of you were here earlier. And I knew it would be fine. And it was fine, right? People had a place to sleep and a meal to eat, and lovely people who greeted them when they came in and fed them. And they're our neighbors, right? They're just our neighbors. So we made a place for our neighbors and Just like Tian and Wayne, we think that's really important here. That's one of our core values. So today, as you go to your classrooms, I hope you'll take a little light. We're going to sing a special song. Do any of you watch The Muppet Show? Do you know The Muppets? No? Okay. See, this is a Gen X thing. Come get your... Well, you go home and look up on the internet. The Muppet Show. You know how to turn them on?
I performed this at my...
You did? Cool. All right. Take the class. Thank you.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. And what's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do you think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Just holding that picture of Kermit in my mind's eye. Friends, after a week marked by political violence and other kinds of gun violence, I want to invite us into a time of prayer and centering. I don't know how this week landed for each of you. It landed hard for me and my family and many people that I love. So I want you to let this space be both the sanctuary you need in times of challenge and suffering and grief, and also a place where your inspirations can become aspirations and maybe eventually realizations. In this space, may you know that you really do matter, no matter what, as Valerie Miller said to many of us yesterday. This is a prayer for remembering our belonging. Sacred presence, root us in belonging so deep we cannot fall alone. Strip away the illusion of separateness. Reteach us reverence. Awaken in us a sense of kinship so wide it undoes every wall. Where our culture has made us consumers, make us caretakers. Where our grief has made us numb, make us tender. And where despair whispers that nothing can change, remind us that the great turning always begins in the heart. May we move from me to we, not as a slogan, but as a sacred return to who we really are. Amen. During this time of centering, if you have a desire to light a candle over in this corner next to the blue chalice, or leave us a note about something happening in your life in our pastoral care book, or add water to our fountain that is the living waters of this congregation. Or if you like to have something more tangible to hold on to or touch or move, we have stones and sand also on that wall. Some of you might prefer to just sit and have a moment of quiet and centering, to quiet your mind, to notice what's in your heart, what's challenging you, what you're perhaps celebrating, to notice who else is in the room with us today and who is not, that you might hold in your heart. So as we sing together with Meg, if you wish to do one of those rituals, we invite you now.
All right. While you're choosing a ritual, those that would like to choose a ritual of singing a new piece, yet last week we began We Will Sing, which is a song out of the Social Justice Handbook, and we learned the verse, when they build walls, we will build bridges, open up a different way. And when they close their eyes, we will sing. And today we're going to learn verse 2, and the text is, when they teach hate, open up our arms so wide. When they scream and shout, we will sing. So you can repeat after me. When they teach hate, open up our arms so wide. Your turn. And
when they teach hate, open up our arms so wide.
My turn. When they scream and shout, we will sing. Ready and go.
When they scream and shout, we will sing.
And let's put it together. 1, 2, 3, and
when they teach hate, open up our arms so wide. When they scream and shout, we will sing.
Great job. And then we need an upper part after we say, when they teach hate, the upper part will go rest. We will love, open up our arms so wide. Everybody try it. And rest. We will love,
open up our arms so wide.
when they scream and shout, we will sing. Ready and go.
When they scream and shout, we will sing.
Let's put that upper part together. Ready and rest. We will love, open up our arms so wide. When they scream and shout, we will sing. Let's put it together. Part 2 first. When they teach hate, we will love, open up our arms so wide. When they scream and shout, we will sing. Great job. And then the end is just what we did last week, which is, whether you're a friend or a stranger, one world we're traveling through. Ready and go. Whether you're a friend or a stranger, one world we're traveling through. Whether you're fearful or in danger, we will stand with you. Your turn and go. Whether you're fearful or in danger, we will stand with you. Let's put this whole thing together. Whether you're a friend and whether you're a friend or a stranger, one world we're traveling through. Whether you're fearful or in danger, we will stand with you. And I think we can do the whole thing starting with, when they teach hate, we will love. You ready? 1, 2, 3, and when they teach hate, we will love, open up our arms so wide. When they scream and shout, we will sing. Whether you're a friend or a stranger, one world we're traveling Nice job to you.
It was somewhere around 2012 or 2013 when I started volunteering at the Arizona Animal Welfare League, which is an animal shelter near Sky Harbor Airport. I started volunteering there for a number of reasons. That was a reason to get outside, stay active, a way for me to learn more about dogs as someone who didn't grow up with them. And I found joy in knowing that I was not only helping the dogs themselves, but I was also contributing to the happiness of the families the dogs would be joining in the future. And I also enjoyed taking fun selfies with the dogs just so I could rack up some likes on Facebook. In fact, there we go. There's a slide, a few pictures of some of the dogs that I got to hang out with. Some good-looking friends there. I think I ended up volunteering at the shelter for something like 4 or 5 years. And the people I got to work with were amazing, and the dogs were a lot of fun to be around. But knowing that my sphere of influence expanded beyond and through the dogs was really what motivated me to stick around there for a while. The dogs that I worked with likely brought some joy to a young child by playfully chasing him or her around, or maybe brought some much-needed companionship to an older person living on their own. I was hanging out with the dogs and having a good time for my own sake, but I was also generating energies of love and connection that reached beyond me. So for me, stewardship is about taking the time to think, what can I do? What do I want to do? How do I help maintain the impact of VUU and other organizations that I care about? How can I show up with purpose? For some of us, showing up with purpose might look like pledging a portion of our income to a cause we believe in. Maybe it's teaching life skills to young people, or just being there with a listening ear for someone who just lost a family member. Maybe it's the patient work of tending a garden, an act that reminds us that we are stewards not only of our community, but of the planet itself. When I think about stewardship, I think about us, how each of us brings something different, and how together we make more possible than any one of us could on our own. We all want to feel like what we give, our money, our time, our energy, our care, actually matters. And just as a garden flourishes when we nurture it, our shared life at VUU flourishes when each of us jumps in to contribute. Our strengths and our gifts all matter and can really have a huge impact. Think about a donation that might seem small to you that might actually help feed a poverty-stricken family for a week. How the kids you teach in the classroom might grow up to be amazing leaders out in a society that desperately needs visionary leadership. Or picture how a single tree planted today might ripple outward into future ecosystems. Stewardship really invites us to see our efforts as sowing seeds for a more just, compassionate, sustainable future. You, and we need to remember that our spheres of influence can expand and multiply rapidly, and focusing on it is a way to feel productive in a world where we feel daily like there is nothing we can do. And this is much of a reminder for me as it is for all of you. Try and break out of the social media doom scroll. Like gardeners, let's tend to what's in reach and place trust in the possibility of a lasting positive energy spreading far beyond what's in front of us. So the care I offered those dogs at the shelter, really went far beyond those individual moments. It really carried forward into the homes and lives of those that I likely won't ever see or meet. And that, for me, is all the motivation I need to continue showing up with purpose, creating ripples of compassion and love that reach far beyond these walls. Blessed be.
Good morning. I just want to start with just telling you what a delight it has been to be with you this weekend and to show up here on Sunday and see all these now familiar faces. So you are a beautiful congregation, and I am grateful to be connected to you in this small way. It was March 11th in 2011 when the people on Japan's East Coast were going about their day, business as usual. Fishermen were pulling up their nets after a productive day of sales. There were school children in uniforms skipping home. Women were shopping in the markets. Then the earth shook, and shook violently for a full 6 minutes. And after those many minutes of shaky ground, the government alerts happened. A tsunami was on its way, bigger than anyone could have imagined when those levees were built years ago. People had 20 minutes tops to leave their coastal towns for higher ground. Perhaps you might recall this infamous tsunami of now almost 15 years ago. Many of us, however, were not directly affected by this natural disaster, and we've moved on. And certainly mainstream media drops it as soon as the next natural disaster struck, which, as we know, these are happening with ever more frequency. But years after this tsunami, another story emerged. A story that speaks to the heart and the soul of the human condition. It could be seen as a cautionary tale or a tale of great hope. A post-disaster study explored the mortality rates in different Japanese coastal towns. In some, up to 15% of the population perished. 15%. In others, there was no loss of life. None, not a single person. One would predict that it was the size of the waves that would influence these mortality rates, or maybe there was some other act of physics and how the wave hit the shore, whatever it was. You know, we would have these scientific predictions about what the mortality rates would be. And they did influence mortality rates in some cases, but not in others. There were notable exceptions. Looking more closely at these coastal communities, this is what they found. In Rifu, as word of the impending tsunami got out, people ran and scattered and gathered their belongings. They gathered their things and they ran. And many, many people died. In Fudai, as the sirens blew, people gathered their people and ran. Picture it. One group is filling their arms with their electronics and photo albums, computers, clothes, maybe a few mementos, carrying their things to safety, seeking to save themselves as fast as they could. And imagine another group filling up their arms and their cars, not with their things, but with the people they loved. And not only their blood relatives, but the old woman across the way who they knew couldn't run and didn't have a car, and they knew her son lived further up, hours away, and would not be able to save her. They carried each other to safety, saving each other as fast as they could, so almost no one perished. This made a difference in the mortality rates, in the amount of migration out of their community after the disaster, and in the amount of post-traumatic stress experienced in the entire community as they rebuilt. It's probably not surprising, but it's certainly something we can forget in the busyness of our lives. This social capital that each community had built before the crisis, that's what made the difference. It doesn't get built when we're in it as well as it gets built when we are just living a life where we know deep in our bones that we need one another. Social capital is really the social scientist word for that deep knowing. And that deep knowing that is so easily forgotten in the busyness of our lives, in the way media comes at us and tells us that things are what will make us happy and what are there to save us. You probably know there's more than a few sirens going off now about the state of social capital in this country and in probably most of our Western world, and that our interconnection with others is waning, especially with those who we deem different from us. And you might remember Robert Putnam's book, Bowling Alone, that he wrote a couple decades ago, and it shone the light on the shrinking connectivity with one another. Just a few years ago, maybe even less than that, one of his students, his lifelong students, wrote a documentary called Join or Die about his life. I don't know if you've seen it. It's really a fascinating kind of update of his work. But here's some of the physical signs of our connections are dropping. Here's where our connectivity is dropping. Being part of any kind of a club, union membership is down. Taking leadership in a community organization is down. Even family dinners and having friends over is down. Of course, COVID has not been helpful to this trend. And even as our social capital is shrinking, a hunger still prevails, doesn't it? How does your connection to others outside of your family enrich your life? Who do you imagine would carry you to safety if your most intimate people weren't around? And who would you carry to safety? And how deep are the connections in this congregation, this beacon of connectedness? What kind of value does it add to your days? Right now, we are being pulled apart by a politic of fear and deceit, which I believe could not have gotten this far without this erosion of social capital over the past few decades. In the middle of the last century, Reverend James Luther Adams, who's a Unitarian religious scholar and prophet who lived about, in the 1930s, 1940s, he went to Germany in that time, probably in the 20s or early 30s, and was watching this erosion of social capital as Nazism was rising. And he sounded the sirens when he came back to this country. And he taught a generation of seminarians about the value of these voluntary associations, not only congregations, but Rotary clubs. He was a white man founder of an NAACP chapter in Chicago. He saw them as the saving collective act of our people. There are very few outside groups, few places where people can congregate and freely express dissent in Germany in those times. Perhaps we can see it happening in our times too. And his entire ministry was committed to strengthening social capitals in our American institutions, including our congregations. He leaned into that depth, that hunger for depth and meaning that can literally save our lives. Robert Putnam asserts that joining or participating in one group cuts in half your odds of dying in the next year. Connecting with each other deeply matters. 6 years after I told that tsunami story at the ordination of a colleague, my own community in Louisville, Colorado, had a climate change-induced natural disaster. On December 30th, 2021, 6 months before the fire season, do y'all have a fire season here? We have a fire season, right? I'd never heard of that 20 years ago, even living in California. But now, this was the middle of the winter, which is not the fire season. A grass fire started in the southeast of the city of Boulder. With winds up to 100 miles per hour, it roared up a hillside towards multiple suburban neighborhoods in Louisville and Superior, Colorado. It wasn't long before my family heard the sirens, saw the smoke, and even billowing flames coming towards our front door. Within an hour and a half of those initial sparks, my family was required to evacuate, along with 37,000 other local residents. My son, who tends to have bought into the culture we live in, gathered a suitcase of his favorite clothes, his most cherished stuffed animals, a few pictures and Christmas cards his grandmother had given him, our dog, and our pet snake, and we drove through ashes falling like snow to our friend's house, which was 45 minutes north of us. We stayed up all night. We monitored fire maps, checking in on friends and neighbors, while staff and members of the congregation who weren't affected called through the phone list of everybody living in those communities. And at the end of it, our house was fine within a mile of this fire line, but over 1,000 other homes were destroyed, including the house of 4 of our congregant families. If you ever lived through something like this, you know that when the dust settles, after the embers cool, the outpouring of love is overwhelming if the community is well-resourced and well-knit together. And that's what happened in these 2 more relatively affluent towns. And that's what happened within our congregation. We raised about $70,000 within a week for the families who lost their home. Our director of religious education made love baskets with lotions, chocolates, fluffy slippers, movie gift tickets, gift cards for everyone who was evacuated, which was over 40 families. We created a support group for the families who lost their homes, and I joined a family in the empty lot of their house amongst just the foundation and helped them mourn their loss. One of the displaced members of our congregation lost a beautiful home on the edge of this grassy knoll and ended up in a small rental apartment a town over. And she had just retired from teaching a week before the fire. In the months following the fire, she spent a lot of time in our congregation. Our doors were open for her. She said it was the place that felt most like home to her. This outpouring of love, this feeling of belonging, wasn't created because of the fire. That disaster amplified what was already there. A solid social fabric built slowly over time in intentional spaces like our congregation. But honestly, after a while, the public moves on to the next crisis. But institutions with a solid relational base are there for people for the long haul. Knowing that the outpouring of support would wane sooner than the need, I held on to some of those funds and gave out the last of the money collected for our congregants 2 years after the fire, just before I left that congregation. There were people, early on who were like, no, we don't need anything, we don't need anything. And it took me a couple of asks, actually, before I said, hey, this money is still here. And I heard the stories about how their insurance hadn't paid how they thought they would, or how the construction costs had gone up, or all those things. And because of the long-haul nature of an institution like our congregation, we were able to offer them that gift. Like James Luther Adams, this religious scholar of our tradition, I believe that our social institutions are what's going to save us. and their erosion deeply troubles me. I love working with UU congregations to help them thrive. My other part-time work is as a community organizer, which also I believe is about connecting people and helping us thrive together. I work for a group called Together Colorado, which does very similar work to Valley Interfaith Project, and I'm delighted that you're doing this work. As a community organizer, one thing powers our work, and it is one-to-one relationships. It is all about, we understand that power is in relationship, and as a UU, I believe our salvation, what will keep us sane and whole, is in our relationships. In my organizing work, I have to every week write a staff report about how many people I had one-to-ones with, because we believe it is that important. Relationships are built slowly, one by one, with deep listening that always, always brings people together. Nothing beats that for the life-saving, life-enhancing web of connections. 4 years now after the worst of the pandemic, I don't know of any congregation or any community organization that isn't wondering how to reweave their connections. This wasn't a one and done tsunami that overtook us, but boy, it was a crisis. The devastation wasn't as sudden, but its impacts have been real. And so much really has been frayed.
And here in our congregation, we use many of the tools to build community and belonging that Lydia just talked about. We've been using one-to-one conversations to connect people to our social justice work and to build more interconnections between social groups at VUU, to bridge the gaps between generations and tenure at this congregation. We're learning to share and listen to each other's stories, and this is also a tool of stewardship. We've also offered a couple of opportunities in the last couple of years for small groups to meet and talk about finances and the direction of the congregation. Small group meetings or cottage meetings can also be a powerful tool for congregations to practice listening to a wide range of stories and experiences and to develop a shared vision for our future. When we gather this way, the commitments we make to our congregation are more tangible. We can connect our shared vision and resources to the stories we've gathered like seeds. Stewarding these seeds means planting them, right? We don't just hold on to them. Maybe not all at once, and certainly with care and thoughtfulness we will plant them, but something gets planted or there is no garden. So just like the community organizations that Lydia works with, our congregation is going to get back to basics, having these one-to-one conversations, gathering in small groups to listen to each other and find the threads that we can weave together in a shared vision. Yesterday, we talked about the difference between the technical aspects of building our resources and sustaining our congregation and the transformational opportunities, the moments when we move beyond a transaction or a task into an experience of acting on behalf of our most dearly held values. Transformational opportunities change us, and they change the landscape, the context, the community we are a part of. I mean, a garden hoe and seeds don't make a thriving garden, right? You may need these, but the garden is possible because you showed up and planted. You showed up and watered. You showed up and pulled weeds. You showed up and harvested. And a truly thriving garden that will feed the birds and the bees, butterflies and human beings, you need other people who will also show up and garden with you. I know you know this. Everything this congregation has done so far that has been meaningful, including buying this property, was done because you showed up together to do the work of gardening. From organizing with VIP to renovating this building and sharing it with folks who need a place to sleep and other organizations that need a place to worship and learn. From morning meditation with the Dalai Lama group to deep conversations in small group ministries and the coming of age program for youth. From dinners together to pool parties and water slides. From healthy education about sex and sexuality to singing together and a shared pulpit. This community has been tending a magnificent garden and creating a container for ministry far beyond this room or this property or the people that we currently are sitting with. We've had our challenges. Some we shared with the rest of the planet, like the pandemic or the things that are happening in our country right now. Some that we've shared that are more unique to our own history and members. Recently, we've spent some time learning about ourselves and our capacity for change and for managing our differences. And we've spent some time grieving and dealing with disappointments. And we've managed to come back to the table together to make a new plan, to try some new skills, and to invite new people in. What opportunities for transformation are you ready to engage together now? Are you ready to pick up some tools and show up together with commitment and care, passion, and possibility?
We never know when the earth will shake and the next tsunami will flood our lives. Be it the death of a loved one, a mental health crisis in our families, a job loss, a natural disaster, or a political uprising. But here's what we do know. Building connections, one-on-one, intentionally, with curiosity and love, fills our cup so that in those moments, we will instinctually carry one another to safety. May this journey you're on of developing generosity and gratitude while developing new strategies for sustaining this congregational home, may it feed your souls and energize your collective lives. Blessed be.
As the ushers come forward, take some time to think about the following quote from Howard Thurman. Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive.
Game, you can act out the part, though you know it wasn't written for you. But tell me, how can you stand with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? One thing can lead to another, it doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother, sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone? Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to tease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel, always getting the grease. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will.
One more time.
Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will.
Our closing words are from Margaret Wheatley, called Turning to One Another. There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong, and keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams.
Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised, and treasure curiosity more than certainty.
Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together.
Trust that meaningful conversations can change the world.
Rely on human goodness.
Stay together. Amen.
Up here today, we have Lynn and Mark and Ken with us, and then our rhythm section, we've got Tom, Felix, James, and Paul. I just want to publicly say thank you to the band. Great band. And you could be up here too if you see yourself in this kind of position. Please come talk to me. My name is Meg. We also have a choir that meets Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. if you like to sing. And if that's too late, we have some ensembles that meet earlier in the day too. So if you see yourself in music here, please come talk to me because there's a place for everybody. This is I Can See Clearly Now. Please stand if you're able and join. And you're welcome to dance.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. I think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad disappear. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, there's nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
One more time.
It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
As we're getting ready to finish our time together this morning, I want to remind you that Lydia is going to share some of her findings with us after you grab something to drink and come back to sit down. If you're looking for the Welcome Circle, it'll be in the flex room that is to your right. Grab something to drink if you want to meet up with Doug and learn a little bit more about our congregation. And now, won't you join me in our extinguishing of the chalice with these words? Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Blessed be.
Trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song in bright and sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Now you can hear me. Friends, we're going to regather up here in front for Lydia to share with us some of her findings this week. This won't be the last time you hear from Lydia. She'll be creating some more slides and feedback for us in a couple weeks that she'll share with the board, and the board will share with you. And this is definitely not the last time you'll see her. But if folks could move to the front so we can move into that portion. And if you're in a conversation you can't let go of, maybe take it to the patio so we can hear Lydia while she's presenting. I'll give you a couple minutes to find your seat, and then we'll get started. So come, whoever you are, up to the front of the sanctuary so we don't have to compete with each other. And take if you're still in conversation and want to take your drink and your cookie or whatever to the patio, that's also fine. We're not shooing you off the property. We're just trying to share space as well as we can.
Here's last minute Lydia.
Are you going to have people ask questions, or should I be a mic runner?
I might do that at the end. I don't have there's not a lot of data I'm presenting, so oftentimes people have questions about the data, so.
I'll hold on to it in case.
Hold on to it in case, yeah, those cookies are awesome.
Also, if you're on the board, stick around because we'll have a meeting with Lydia before she leaves campus today. Just a quick one. We'll move into the flex room for that. So if you're on the board, don't run away, please.
Well, hello everyone. Wave. Let me know you're with me. Great. Great. And folks in the back, if you could either join here towards the front or take your conversations outside, that would be fabulous. And I'm just going to start now. So, I will start again with gratitude. It has been just a beautiful weekend to be here with you. And I would say my first, I get to form these impressions of a congregation, just like it's like a snapshot that comes in. And my,
Reverend Lydia?
yes.
Could you use a different microphone? You're much harder to hear now.
I am?
Yes.
Can I use a different microphone? I could probably use that one, sure.
Maybe it's just getting your earpiece, the mouthpiece a little closer.
Is that helpful? Yeah. This one seems to have a little more echo in it, though, I think. It has a lot more echo? Okay. Let's try this. Ryan, can... He's on it, clearly. Okay, wonderful. All right. So, big picture first impression that's not on a slide is just a big wow. Like, what a vibrant congregation. I have not done a Next Steps weekend that had so many people engaged in it, so I just need to say that. The number of people that even answered the survey was just higher than I would have anticipated. So y'all have a sense of like readiness to move into a better future for yourself, to move out of some of these challenges you have that is palpable from someone who's just stepping in here this weekend. And I'll go over some of the other gifts I've experienced here, as well as some challenges I see and my initial recommendations. As Sarah said, this will be followed in a few weeks with a meeting with the board and leadership about, that'll go into much, much more detail, that will have more data analysis and other information that will be shared with you as a congregation. But for today, I wanted to reflect back, mirror back to you what I experienced this weekend and some initial recommendations. Next slide, please, Ryan. You're going to be doing my slides for me, correct? Because I'm not like plugged in here. Excellent. So this is what the next step process is. There's a lot of gathering of information about the congregation. A lot of it happens even before the weekend. So some of you more on the inside of things know that I asked you for a lot of data and history. I have all of that. I had a meeting with the staff. I had a meeting with board and other leaderships. I met with the UUA staff. And of course, I've met with a lot of congregants this weekend. There was a survey. There was an open workshop on money, values, and generosity. And overall, I met with about 50 distinct people in this, not including anything I did on Zoom. So it was a lot of engagement. And now we're in that next phase where I'm providing I just was in the Sunday service. Here's a presentation to the congregation. I will debrief with the leadership and then deliver a final report. The final report, so you know, comes in the form of a slide presentation, so you all can use them as you want. You can, I really recommend that some of the key slides go into your weekly newsletter, or that you have other congregational gatherings where you really go over the findings, so that they don't just rest in the board. And we have found that doing those, 10 to 15 page reports with lots of words, actually, they tend to get, they used to be lost on a shelf. Now they're just lost in someone's Google Drive, which can make them even harder to find. So next slide, please, Ryan. So here's your by the numbers. This is just kind of who you are. You have 262 members. You have 135 pledging households, which makes sense for a congregation about your size, because some of the, as you know, pledging households, sometimes couples will pledge together. Your total pledges are about 63% of your budget, and so because of your rental, that's actually pretty darn good. Oftentimes it's 80 and even more than 80 when you don't have the rental capacity that you have. Your operating budget, now I can't even read that from where I have it, $612,000. Your average pledge is $2,866. Your median pledge is $1,800. And then we always calculate the 80th percentile pledge. So that pledge is, that means that, the top, it's 80th percentile, so if you go top to bottom, it's your kind of 20% from the top pledge, if you put all your pledges bottom to top. And that's kind of a good indicator of your well-established, been around for a while, engaged congregant. So, and that's a nice, healthy number for you all to have. In the final report, there'll be more comparisons about how y'all, look compared to other congregations in your area, what's going on in the UUA, and also we divide up the quartile percentages, so you can see over time if you're not just the average is going up, but if how the number of families are giving. Next slide, please. 75 people responded to the SurveyMonkey. We asked a survey, which we asked 3 questions. We asked about defining milestones of the congregation, 3 greatest strengths, top priorities, and what about the congregation makes you feel alive, most engaged, connected. And so next slide. Here are the milestones that I coalesced. The founding, the congregation's founding, so there's still folks here that were our founding members, and the growth into several buildings, and I read that in your history, and how beautiful that was as you were growing. Fostering new groups like East VUU, a lot of the social justice groups, where it was important. Moving from the Warner Road to the current location, so that was a real milestone for a number of people. I've heard some of those stories. All of your adaptations through COVID, they stood out as milestones. Reverend Sarah's arrival, being a nationally recognized faith formation program under Marcy. And then some of the bigger ones that are, are milestones, maybe not in the most positive way, because they were created conflict, was Marcy's retiring and the faith formation conflict that ensued after that, Kelly's retirement and the music program conflict that ensued after that, the changes to Article 2, which for this congregation were created conflict, and back to the positive renovation of the sanctuary. But in that also was the disappointment from having an expectation that your capital campaign was actually going to give you another footprint here on this building, right? And instead, that capital campaign was right before COVID, and things kind of stopped. And I want to say that making the choice to do the renovations to this sanctuary instead was a really good choice, so that the congregation still experienced itself as moving forward, as a congregation that had things to do and things to offer people. So it wasn't what you originally wanted, but that adaptability brought you this incredibly beautiful space as well. And we wouldn't have, and not knowing, COVID, everything dropped from our budgets to our membership and all those things. And so you could have ended up in a situation where you were building, was it cash poor, building large, whatever that would be. You don't want to be in that situation. Next slide, please. This is a little harder to read, so I'll read it to you. This is your what you consider your strengths. And the highest one was your powerful social justice and action. And then everyone together in community, committed lay leaders, how you take care of each other, great children and youth programming, beautiful music making, wonderful minister, great administration staff, wonderful Sunday services, active small groups, the stepping up and volunteering, and then under other, that include building up one another and encouraging and reclaiming our music program. And even below that, the lower ones was powerful climate action, great adult programming, wonderful facilities. Great program staff came in at 0, as did great stewardship. So that shouldn't be a surprise, because I think that's why I got the call I got, was to support those areas of congregational life which are intimately connected. And then your mission priorities. Next slide, please, Ryan. Membership retention, stewardship, pledge drive systems. Those are really close together, which aren't surprising. Membership and stewardship often go hand in hand, but don't necessarily need to. Having enough resources, children and family programming, social justice activism, Sunday services, music, increased volunteering and lay-led things. Truth, reconciliation, and healing is on there for this congregation. So you'll see in my recommendations, y'all had a lot of challenges that came at once, like a bit of a perfect storm of challenges, including some things that were outside of, just this individual congregation, like COVID and the political situation we're in. And so it was a lot, and you've done a lot of healing. And, there's those remnants, it doesn't all go away. The tail of all that conflict is still with you and needs to be just a piece of what you acknowledge about yourselves and how you keep moving forward. Program funding, aging population, and staffing would be mission priorities. The question 4, I did as a word cloud. So here's some of the things that makes you feel alive. Connections, friends, friendship, music. Look how much music came up. And there was another story that I heard about, reclaiming this music program. This congregation had a history of a really fabulous music program and a really fabulous religious education program, both of which I don't think I have to say are unstaffed. So that's a question I have about where you're, about aligning what you understand as your priorities, what you value, with your stewardship dollars, and how to better align that. I even saw that in your ends statements had to do with, one of them was your faith formation, and yet in a round of cuts that was deeply cut. And so I don't doubt that people made the best decisions that they could given the resources that you had, because there was a $80,000 dip in your stewardship last year, something like that. And there's an and in there, right? The and is, how do you collectively realign your values with your resources? So that's the and I'm going to leave you with there. On Saturday, we did a workshop, so that's the next slide. I had a lot of conversations in it, but here was some of the key things we came up with, that were the key takeaways. That all stewardship is a careful and responsible management of something that's entrusted to one's care. So this congregation is here because of the generations before you that were good stewards. And so now it is your work as a congregation to be good stewards for the next generations. So many times this weekend I heard people say, I want this church here. I want this congregation here for the people I don't know 50 years from now, 100 years from now. And that money, which is something that can be hard for people to talk about in our culture, is really just a medium of exchange that symbolizes perceived value. So it really is just a way that we say, this is valuable to me, and it's gotten corrupted, I would say. Not that money itself is corrupt, but we've been duped into believing that other things are more valuable, like that your Starbucks drink has a value that might even feel greater, or we've been duped into thinking that feels greater than actually the values that we get in other less tangible things. And then finally, that sharing financial resources of whatever amount is an important part of belonging. That investment into our congregation. And the amount isn't important, but that form of investment, similar to the investment of time, they're an important part of the feeling of belonging. Next slide. Where's my next slide? You have a lot of gifts. You have an incredibly large core of committed long-term members and engaged new members. I spoke already about the vibrancy. You have strong, outwardly focused social justice initiatives with partners, so that just amplifies what you're able to do. I was just very impressed in that room. I also, the number of people who were in the small group around stewardship was also really impressive to me. Usually, I've been in those small group meetings where it's like 3 or 4 people that are the ones that are just wringing their, pulling their hair out, trying to figure out how do we engage people. There were a lot of people in that small group. So there is a lot, what that tells me is there's already been some education about what needs to happen. You're feeling the impacts of having stewardship not be as robust as it could be. And you are, and you're educating people around that, so that people are sharing that. It's pretty hard when a congregation has like 2 people who are in the back just, really feeling the burden of that. And really important to share that data and the information about that. You have beautifully renovated spaces, the sanctuary being one of them, a growing children and youth program. And that also, I want to say, it's really hard to tell when you're your own congregation what's happening. But I will tell you that many congregations don't even have youth programming right now post-COVID. Like they are actually down to nothing. And the fact that you have been able to rebuild and that there's young families and children and youth are coming back is something to really acknowledge and to appreciate. Your congregation is growing in numbers and diversities. I always, when people say diversity, I always ask them to articulate what that means for them. And the multiple diversities are growing here. And you have very well-developed programs for caring for one another. It was a really beautiful moment we had in that flex room talking about the caring ministries. And even, and throughout that was a particularly powerful one as people shared about what those ministries have meant and their longing for what those ministries could be. And so those are very well-developed programs. There's a couple challenges, of course. Slide, please. Thank you. Next one, thank you. You've been through a lot together, right? You've been through COVID, how all of these things happen together. COVID, multiple staff changes, significant conflicts that required external support, and this tension around values and vision. So an experience, some of it I think is generational. It's not all generational. There's a tension around values and visions that I really hope you continue to explore as you move forward. As I mentioned, there's always room for more healing, and the health of this congregation depends on your capacity to be forward-looking now. Y'all spent a year with Reverend Sam, or more maybe? I don't know. About a year with Reverend Sam. A lot of healing happened. I know, I can feel it. I also can feel that these, they don't go away. The healing takes time. And you need to be forward-looking right now. And you can do both. Can't tell you how understaffed you are. You got a minister who's wearing 2 hats, right? So this is a serious concern for the congregation that is deeply connected to stewardship, right? So a congregation this size should be having, I would say a full-time Director of Faith Formation, and assistance in that role, so that the Director of Faith Formation can be setting the vision, can be training and tutoring, training the staff, can be bringing volunteers in, and the assistant is, counting the crayons and making sure everybody has those things, right? Those are 2 different roles. And you actually, if you have those roles separated out, you're not, from a stewardship perspective, you're not paying somebody, more than the actual cost of counting crayons would be. Do you know what I mean? Like you want to have your staffing, and you're paying them to a level of responsibility. So for sure. And the same with music. The same with music. You have a love of music. It was the biggest on your little bubble, and you now don't have that music staff. 262 members. That's like a good size in UU land. Like, don't compare yourself to the mega churches and the Catholic parishes, but 262 members is a good size, and the age range that you have, and your growth potential. Right? We're not talking about a congregation that's in decline. We're talking about a congregation that's upward. And so, in that, you really need to be staffing for growth. Let's just staff for where you are now, but also like thinking about staffing for growth. And you'll hear a 5-year plan is one of my thoughts. And the other, finally, is that your stewardship activities have been, at least in the last couple years, more transactional than transformative. So it's been, what I might call more passive stewardship. Here's the letter, here's the email. And transformational stewardship is engagement with one another deeply and helping folks have the meaningful conversations that invites them to align their values with their resources, with what's important to them. And next slide. So here's my initial recommendations for you. Design a more relational pledge drive for this fall. So your pledge drive comes this fall. So whether it's small group meetings, Debbie and I have been talking about some of those things, what that's going to look like. I should have put in your gifts, you have a fabulous stewardship chair this year, so along with a ton of other fabulous leaders. But so design a much more relational pledge drive that allows for those intimacies of conversations, whether they're small group or individual. I'd say, given the timing, you'd probably want to be thinking about cottage meetings, small group meetings, whatever you want to call them. But create a year-round stewardship committee, so you're developing a timeline of stewardship activities that helps shape a culture of generosity. That stewardship isn't a one-and-done check mark. Now we've done this, and now we're done. And we don't have to think about it again until, next year. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's stewardship season. So you want to get into this habit of like, we are constantly with each other talking about how are we building the legacy for generations to come? What are we stewarding here now for generations to come? I want to recommend that you realign your pledge drive to your program year within the next 2 years, right? It is unnecessarily complicated, and it doesn't allow you to tie visioning to your stewardship work. If people are giving to a program, half of a program year that's already in work, the tie of stewardship to vision is really key. And so if you realign that, and we can talk about what the timing of that is like, but and there's no difference in tax advantage, even if it was the other way all around, and the tax situation has really changed. So it's doable. It's a bit of a hassle. There'll be a confusing moment when it's like, what are we pledging for? But it's totally doable. And I recommend you develop a 5-year financial plan. So if you are imagining staffing up, what does that take over the course of years? How can people begin to anticipate what that means for stewardship, what that means for other ways you can raise money inside and outside of your congregation? Looking ahead from that year-to-year budgeting will really help you feel more solid. In all of this, keep talking to each other about what really matters, share stories, a lot of what Sarah said that y'all are on the cusp of doing. Continue to just share your stories with one another. Revise your vision and mission statements. And I recommend thinking about what values from the past and what feelings from the past are essential to your identity. Do you not want to let go? And then to think about what's needed to live them now. Oftentimes when people are thinking about, when you've had a grand past that there's been a decline from, people want to go back to the same structures they have to create the same feelings that they had. And now your job is to be really attentive to the feelings and the values and to assess what are the structures we need. How do we do that now in this context? So, and then lean into your unique role as a liberal religious congregation in these times. You are needed here, like deeply needed here. How do you do that within your capacity so you're not burning out and running in 10,000 directions, but so that you have real clarity about this is our lane, this is what we are going to do to make a difference. And then the other thing I would add is to steward your property. One of the things I noticed in walking around was there were a lot of spaces, different rooms that felt unfinished or cluttered or had boxes in them. And so to create a sense of sanctuary, of like, we are here, look around at your spaces and see which ones say like, yeah, like, we're here. Steward your property better. And then I'm amazingly impressed with how much land you have. And I want you to explore opportunities for the use of that land, the physical, not only the buildings, but the use of that land. And are there stewardship opportunities for that land that you have? And Sarah and I was talking to me about a couple of initiatives that might be out there, but really explore that. You have a fabulous relationship with your Montessori school, and that's, I'm so grateful. That's a saving grace for this congregation. I didn't put it under one of your gifts. It's a long-term good relationship, so that's an amazing gift. And what other relationships might you have and build on that might not tax you as much for a shared space situation, but might be shared internal spaces? But what are those outside spaces you have that are real asset? I am going to stop there and just leave you with some closing words. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. You are those people, a group of thoughtful, committed citizens. Go do it. Blessed be.
Thank you for staying. And as I said, the board will be meeting.